So let me ask that question again. How many people of you are here in e-commerce at all? And how many of you guys are on Shopify? And how many of you guys know of Trackify? Okay, some. All right, awesome, great. Yeah, I mean, we do our events now, training events. We have one coming up in Los Angeles in July. But still, kind of jumping into an event here with this awesome crowd of, 200 people in the room, and only very few have heard of me before, you always go, I don't know, what am I actually going to tell them and what they're going to want to hear. But let's just see here. So these are my 7 children, and this is not my FML picture, I promise you. It's more like iStack Kids. Thanks. And here's a little bit more background, okay? So I actually grew up in Germany. I was born and raised in Cologne. And I went to the US to work in the film music industry. So if you want to go to imdb.com, type my name in, you see my film credits there. I worked on a couple of Austin Powers movies and stuff like that. But I was always kind of interested in internet marketing. And then I went from internet marketing to Teespring, got my start on Teespring with e-commerce on a platform, then went over to Shopify, built my first store and discovered that there's really a big need for controlling your Facebook pixels. So let me ask you another question. I want to keep you involved here and engaged. How many of you are using Facebook Pixel for what you're doing on your marketing? So that's a few more hands. That's awesome. How many of you know exactly what the Facebook Pixel does? Pretty many. Okay, cool. All right, well, so that's really what I want to talk to you about a little bit more because I ended up creating the app for Shopify store, Trackify, to be able to control your pixels on Facebook and control them in the Shopify platform, okay? Because if you have an e-commerce platform and you have a bunch of products going on, you need to control better what the Facebook pixel does so that you can leverage that better. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to give you some tips about testing, some tips about scaling, and list building, because that is really the big point here of Facebook Pixel is the leverage. A lot of people kind of focus on the tracking features of the Facebook Pixel, but I always focus on the leverage features of the Facebook Pixel. Okay, so let's talk about this. I'll just give you a few tips about each of these topics. On testing, well, here's the data. So the question on e-commerce testing is, what do you really look at in your test data, in the data that your campaigns generate, right? A lot of people, particularly when they're kind of starting carefully with small budget campaigns, they kind of don't really know what to look for. And here is the most important pieces to really look for. Ad engagement. Ad engagement is how much engagement your ad gets on Facebook itself, right? As long as everything is still tracked on Facebook, they're not in your Shopify store yet, or wherever you're landing them, how much are people actually engaging there? The second data point is e-com engagement. I call it that because that's what people do once they're on your website. And there's a very important metric that I want to focus on, and I want to give you a little tip on that one. And then, of course, buying behavior. And each of these points there, you're going to get to leverage, and we'll get to that towards the end of the presentation. You get to leverage that with the Facebook Pixel. So, ad engagement. Here's the big key to this. The dollar bid, and that is true whether you're bidding on auto bids or whether you're using manual bidding. The dollar bid adds up with what I call the engagement value to determine how many impression auctions you win. Right? So we all know that Facebook is an auction-based system. Well, what we're bidding on is impressions, right? We're bidding with, and we're competing with other advertisers for impressions of our ads. Well, So the competitive edge here is to get your engagement level up. The higher your engagement is, the lower you need to have your dollar value bid to win more impression auctions. And that's your competitive edge. Now, ad engagement is worthwhile getting up for many different reasons. I have one case study where we actually just re-edited a video that had already been running much less successfully before. And so that was the only thing that we did, but all of a sudden the ad engagement went up and it got us cheaper CPMs, cheaper clicks, but then on top of that, it also increased the conversion rate in the Shopify store itself by 3x. So we didn't change anything about how the conversion was manipulated once they were there. We didn't change anything about the funnel. We didn't change anything about the checkout pages. We didn't change anything about the offer. We only changed the way that the video was edited so that it was much more engaging. And so it set up the audience that saw the ads for better conversion rate and for more determination for wanting to buy the product. So engagement and getting your engagement up is an awesome thing to do. One little detail here, that's an interesting formula. I call that the link click to view content ratio. So that's literally when you count your link clicks that you're getting, and then you're going to count your view content that you're getting. You put them with the link clicks up and the view content in the denominator of the fraction there, and that's the ratio. So when that ratio is under less than 1, that's good. That's what you want. And what does that show you? Well, so in Shopify, on e-commerce platforms, we typically fire view content events on product pages. So when someone looks at a product, that fires another view content event. Now, how can the view content count ever go higher than the link click count, you ask? Well, right, because they click on the ad in Facebook, they land on the landing page, that's where the view content event fires. How can that ever go higher than the link clicks? Well, that's because when you have a Shopify store, you're likely to have elements on your product pages that show them what else is there. And if that's engaging, they'll engage with other products. They'll click on these links and go to other products, and that fires another view content event, okay? So that means they can fire multiple view content events on the same visit. And so that shows if the view content count is higher than the link click count, that shows that they're more engaging on your store, with your store. And this is an interesting concept because it is the first step to where you actually measure and determine buying behavior and audience behavior on your website. And that's really the key thing that you want to be doing with your Facebook pixel. And of course, the buying behavior is the other thing that you want to look at. So a lot of times you have an offer where a lot of people actually buy right away, immediately, right? Because they engage with your offer in the ad, they love it, they like it, they got to have it, so they go over and they buy it right away. That's good, but sometimes they're buying only after following up, right? So that's where retargeting comes in as important. Retargeting is very important, and you can a lot of times make a campaign profitable when you retarget that wouldn't be profitable without retargeting. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind. And of course, you want to also take a look at average order value. So average order value, if you can create package offers or do immediate upsells after the first transaction, that's a good thing that makes your campaigns perform better, and you can spend more on Facebook ads to begin with. All right, so let's go to the next topic, scaling. This here is an example campaign that we had going. This was a first day, $13,000, one campaign. The next screenshot here is for a week's worth of sales, just under 100,000. And then this is a 30-day typical, great scaling campaign starting out of the gate, wonderful, and then going very well over the first 30 days. So if you want to create something like that, it's important to have confidence in your offer. Okay, the confidence level in your offer is an important thing, and it comes from engaging offers. We already talked about that. You have to have reliable testing systems and predictable scaling systems. Okay, so these are the scaling factors that contribute to that. Phase 1 is you test your offers. Phase 2 is you solidify and you optimize your offers. And then phase 3 is where you really scale and you kick in with some backend like upsells and email follow-up systems and so forth. By far the most powerful scaling method is lookalike audiences that reflect customer behaviors in your store, and they're mined from funnel interaction. So funnel interaction, what do I mean by that? Funnel interaction here is basically anything that your customers, your leads, the people that visit your websites from your Facebook ads are going to do in your store. Okay, so they visit a product, they put a product into the cart, they buy a product, or they skip away from the cart. Some of them might put something into the cart that's higher value than others, right? And then from that, you build the lookalike audiences, but it is just like list building. So how many here are familiar with list building on email? Show of hands. So list building, and on email, of course, what you do is you segment your lists, right? You wouldn't just send everything to your entire list all the time. Well, the good news is you can do that on Facebook, and you can build company business assets by building lists on Facebook that are just like email lists, okay? So just like you tag, you use different tags for different behaviors, for different things that people in your email list have done before. You opened an email, clicked on a link, they get another tag. Whatever they do, they get different tags. Just like that, you create event data using the Facebook Pixel to tag your audiences, and thereby you can segment them into audiences that do different things. Now, from these audience segments, you can build custom audiences in Facebook, right? Is everybody familiar with that? How to do that? Yeah, custom audiences, you know what that is. Okay, so custom audiences are cool because you can do two things with them. You can retarget them, or you can also build lookalike audiences. So here's some examples. For example, people who have visited your product pages, but they have not bought the product. That's a very simple, or in this case actually not added the product to the cart. That's pretty simple, right? Everyone has looked at a product, but hasn't added it to the cart. So what's their engagement level? Okay, because they clicked on your ad, they're on your page in your store, but not that great because they didn't add it to the cart, right? So sometimes something may have kept them from doing that. Here's another example. That's the next group, right? The people who have added the product to the cart but didn't follow through and buy it. So that's the next group. So first segment, they're pretty engaged but not super engaged. This segment is significantly more engaged because they've added the product to the cart. But what held them back from buying the product? Well, we don't know, but that's another segment. Here's another example. Lifetime value over $100. Now that's pretty interesting, right? And it's pretty interesting that you can actually get that out of the Facebook Pixel. On email, you actually need a fairly sophisticated system to set this up, but with the Facebook Pixel, and by firing that for all of your purchases, you can now just build a list that shows who has made purchases for a total value of over $100, and you could build a very specific niche segment out of that part of the audience. And that's where the leverage comes in. So the custom audiences, I mentioned that before. So the first thing we can do with them is retarget. So that means you can now send follow-up ads to the exact segments that we've mentioned before, right? So an awesome thing to do is send a follow-up ad to the people who have visited your product but not added it to the cart, right? You can just send them the product again, the same ad again. You can send them a better offer. You can send them a different offer. You can send them a discount coupon in the offer. And you can build a sequence for that even, okay, so that they see different ads for a couple days so that you can see if you can nudge them over. And those retargeting campaigns are usually far more profitable. They have far lower CPA than the initial campaigns. So that's a really important thing to do. Also, of course, since you've created them as a segment, you can now take out the people who have already added the product to the cart. Because guess what? We're just going to send a different retargeting campaign to that segment, right? So there's a second segment that has added the product to the cart but hasn't purchased it yet. So they need a different follow-up. And that's what we do. And because we niche, we segment this all out into different retargeting campaigns and then different sequences within each one, we can really maximize our CPA with that, or maximize our ROI, minimize our CPA. But the second thing you can do with the custom audiences is to use them as base audiences for lookalikes. And that's the leverage point of the Facebook Pixel, and that is so powerful. It's more powerful than most people realize because the lookalike audiences are giving you a batch of people that are similar to the people who are in the base audience, in the audience that is the custom audience that you built before. So how are they actually different? How are they actually similar to, what makes the people similar inside those custom audiences? Number one is demographics, right? So if you have people, your target audience and is demographically defined as, whatever, females 24 through 45 or whatever, something like that, then your lookalike audience is very correctly reflecting that same age range, but that's even weighted. So it's weighted in the sense that if there's like a curve over that age range that you defined, so where the base audience, the custom audience, is including maybe 10% are between 20 and 25. 20% are between 25 and 30, 30% are between 30 and 40, and so forth, then the lookalike audience makeup will exactly reflect the percentage distribution from the custom audience. That's way more powerful than going to an interest and saying, okay, now I'm going to limit my age ranges like this. The lookalike audience is going to exactly reflect the makeup of the custom audience with regards to demographics. The next thing that is captured in the similarity of the people that are in lookalike audiences is the buying behavior. And that's a huge point because with that, you can get a far better lookalike audience if, for example, that example that we saw, if you built it based on an audience that has a lifetime value of over $100, that's going to be a far better buying behavior than the ones that just have just only purchased one thing and only spent $10 with you. So that's very powerful. And then of course interests are captured in that as well. Personally, I always find that interest is actually not that important because what we do is we build like really large lookalike audiences and then we intersect that with a broad interest. And then we can capture the buying behavior and the demographics and basically limit that to a certain interest and apply it to any niche that we want to use it for. So this is really the power of the leverage. In using the leverage is by expanding, dividing, and conquering the audience. That is what gives you deeper reach into your audiences and gets Facebook to get you more and more better audiences to target and that fit with you. So the first step is, of course, start some initial traffic. So you get initial traffic, you start with any audience you want. You can target it, you don't have to target it because what we're after is making audiences that are going to be lookalike audiences based on the buyer interaction in your store. Okay, so you start with anyone, you gather extended event data. So extended event data is things like they have a product ID in there, they have maybe a niche tag in there, they have prices in there for what the products cost that they purchase, what their purchase transaction is. Maybe even what we do in Trackify is you can build data in there of the day and the day of the week and the hour of the day, so that you can profile your interaction with the time-based data as well. Then you create segmented custom audiences, just like in the examples that I showed you, but you can expand that. You can make it finer. You can make it finer defined. You can, do, okay, give me the value between $50 and $100. And the more of them you build, the more powerful this gets. Then you expand, that's the next step, you expand these segmented custom audiences by creating lookalike audiences. Lookalike audiences are defined as percentages of whatever the country is that they're built for. So in the US, a segment is usually about 2 million people. So you create a 1% audience, you have 2 million people, you create 2% audience, you have 4 million people, and so forth. And you can go all the way up to 20% with those. And then you repeat the process. And the cool thing is, these lookalike audiences, even if they're just stacked a little bit differently than the next one, they are going to be an awesome audience tool for expanding the reach into your campaigns. Okay? So you build different lookalike audiences that are made up differently with different criteria, and many of them will work, and they will increase your overall reach of your campaigns if you run your different ad sets to different lookalike groups, just like that. So here's some of the results. $600,000 in sale. This took about 2 months to do that. I know you heard some unbelievable results earlier today, so I was trying to dial it down a little bit so that it becomes not so over life size necessarily. 4 days, $35,000, great result. Here are some specific results. Are they big enough for you to see? Not quite. So there's a cost column there, the second column over. Cost per action is average $844 out of $4,000 spent. Here's another great example. These are examples from our coaching students. So, it's always great to see people getting good results when they apply the strategies that we introduce. So there you go. Now, this is if you have any follow-up questions at all, I'm going to take them now, but I invite you to get in touch with me through this link. I actually just followed Michael's setup there, so this connects you with my personal page with the Messenger app with ManyChat. So let's see how that works out. And that would be great.
Nice.